Parloa.
So now let's zoom out even further. AI is developing at unprecedented speed and is changing enterprises like never before. And that's why I'm very excited to welcome two people on stage that help to drive that transformation. Please welcome on stage from OpenAI, Laura, and our director of the board, Jens. Welcome to the stage.
Wow, looks good. So before we start, I think there's one group who didn't get enough of applause today. I think you did a great job. Chava did a great job. Chris had a great speech, but there's one group of people here, and I like to have all Palones actually give a big round of applause to all of our clients who are here, who all make that happen. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So, just want to briefly introduce you, Laura, and I'm very happy to have you here. Laura Modiano leads partner management across EMEA at OpenAI, and she's got a science background in Oxford and Cambridge, and I think you're combining a very excellent experience between building bridges between technology, science, and business. And in your role, you are seeing a lot of partners across Europe. You see all the partnerships OpenAI is building. So please welcome Laura Modiano. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I'm going to skip the part introducing the man on the left side. I think everybody knows too. Jens, chair of the board. I'm very happy to be here the second time. First meeting we had here with our partners and clients, I think a couple of years ago, was 19 people in a pub. So that developed a bit, which is very nice to see. So let's set the scene a bit. Sam Altman was here yesterday and got the Axel Springer Award in Berlin. And in his interview yesterday night, he said that he was very surprised about the speed and the overwhelming adoption of what happened with AI, that he always thought it will be successful, but that he didn't think it was improving that fast. So OpenAI is known as pushing frontiers, and can you give us a little bit an idea of what is the latest innovation? What is your current strategy on how you're going to innovate forward? You put so many things out there over the last months, so give us a bit of a view on what's the latest coming at the moment.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure, and it's especially a pleasure to be here with Parloa. Just on a personal note, I've been at OpenAI for just over a year, and I still remember my first day. I traveled to San Francisco, and we were talking about what are the best companies coming out of Europe, and it was in my first conversation about ecosystem in Europe, Parloa came up. So it feels like a very full circle.
We didn't pay her for that.
Yeah. It was literally in the first conversation with a team of, as now we're going to have a presence in Europe, who are the people that we must be working and partnering with? So it's such a pleasure to be here, coming back from that and seeing the growth, as you say, in the journey that we've had in the last year. So coming here, I looked at the latest numbers we've had, and it is true that growth has been absolutely incredible. So just a couple of numbers of where we're at now. So ChatGPT users, so weekly active users, are currently at over 700 million, which is up from 500 million in June. So that's just a range of pace of change that we're talking about. On the enterprise side, which I think is a lot more what everyone here talks and cares about, they have more than doubled, like a lot more than doubled since June as well. So that shows that people in enterprises truly want to be using AI. And why do they want to use it? Because the results and outcomes that they see from that, at least from the surveys that we have from enterprise customers, is that they're seeing 1.5x faster revenue growth, 1.6x higher shareholder value and returns. So not only are you creating value for yourself, but also for your shareholders, and then 1.4x return investment on capital invested across all the different resources that they have. that also means for the staff and for the people that work there that there's higher productivity, creativity, freedom to think and express themselves, and work satisfaction. Work satisfaction increases by 71% when AI is adopted in the enterprise. And then when tools and solutions are introduced like what Parloa is offering, people are feeling that they're saving 95% time and have 77% higher completion of tasks that they were previously not able to complete on time. So this is just in range of what we're seeing in terms of just statistics of how impactful the work that we're doing and that you're delivering to the world is. So that's just as an introduction to how we're seeing the world. In terms of what's coming, OpenAI is a company that ships a lot and often, and we always do that based, in response to what our customers are asking for. We're not just sitting on a lab somewhere far away. We're really trying to understand what our users want, what our customers as well as our customers, and to try to service that. And again, personally, I think that it is users who ask for things. So companies and partners like Parloa will say, we want to deliver a value or a use case because our customers want that. And then it is our job to be translating that back as to how we can enable companies to actually deliver that with more use cases implemented from our models.
Thanks a lot. And it's amazing numbers, and then the uptake all over the world is I would say unseen in the industry so far. So what you guys delivered there is amazing. So Malte, let's turn it over to Parloa. OpenAI was from the very beginning a very special partner for us, and I think when we first looked, when ChatGPT came out and we first looked at it and say, okay, wow, this is going to change the world. So can you double click a little bit on our special relationship with OpenAI and why we keep such a focus on them?
Yeah, I think what makes OpenAI and our partnership special is that we are not just buying services, so models with them. We're actually really pushing the boundaries. So we're working on the new versions of the models together, being a design partner, and really trying to think about what needs to come next in our domain. And the engineering product teams from OpenAI work very closely with our product and engineering teams together. Laura and all the teams at OpenAI are a great partner to push the boundaries of what's possible together.
And it's great to see these engineering groups working so closely together. Do a little bit of a double click on your previous presentation. When you see ChatGPT on the one side, it's very much on the consumer side. So my 87-year-old mother uses that almost every day by now. And on the other side, you talked a lot about enterprise grade and enterprise readiness. So tell us a little bit about the journey when we started with the very early days of Parloa, basically really coming from early voice interaction to now clients like IKEA, like Booking, like big healthcare companies. So what is the special evolvement we have seen over the last months, especially in the Parloa product there?
Yeah, and I think we talked about a lot of topics today that agentic AI is still something new. Most people around the globe really touched it the first time in 2022 when they used ChatGPT the first time. But what we need to do now is to bring that technology into the enterprise, right? And in order to bring such a technology into the enterprise, you need to have a lot of things in place in order to guarantee it scales, it's reliable, it's on the quality you want to get that to. And just all the capabilities that Java talked about show you what's actually you need to really scale your agentic infrastructure globally. And that change is happening at unprecedented speed. Laura talked about how many features and new capabilities are shipped. It's still the beginning, and there will be a lot more things coming in the next 12 months.
I'd like to say it's interesting because obviously we have the consumer side and then we have the API side, which is what developers are using to build their applications. And from my perspective, we make it possible to build things with AI, which is accessible to everyone, whether you're an early stage startup, an established company, or a very old enterprise that is making billions and billions. every company will have use cases that they can benefit through AI from. And, I used to work in a company that was then acquired by Deloitte. And I remember that, we're going to create a little team and we're going to put 3 people aside and we're going to figure out the problem. And then we're going to borrow some people and then build something internally. Or, 6 months later, someone has left and this is never built and never uptaken. Or you work with companies that are obsessing over that use case, that problem, creating value. And when I see Parloa, like every time I've talked to you, Malte, to Stefan, to Csaba, and by the way, every conversation I've ever had with Csaba, I'm like, there's so much more that we can do. And I'm so impressed and learning from him. So thank you for this. But it's incredible to see the value that companies that are actually solving problems and going further and further and further to horizontally understand it and how to create value for your customers actually are the ones that are driving the AI revolution. We make it possible, but it is implemented in the hands of people, and the world experiences it in their everyday lives because of work that you do and companies like you do. And I think that's like quite magical. Of AI is not a single thing. It's not something that sits again apart in a single use case, but it touches everything from consumer to care to how we work internally, how we interact with the tools that we've always interacted with, and that additional value that when you have that relentless focus to create, I think is really the unlock for what we call the AI revolution.
Right. So being here in Berlin and then looking at you here, that's great. But when you look at Sam Altman is in town, we obviously prefer having you here. Philipp Herzig from SAP is here. Samar Abdulatif from Microsoft is here. So Berlin seems to have something going on. And though we don't have a Microsoft, we don't have a Google, we don't have an OpenAI, I think there is
have entrepreneurship.
There's a lot of innovation. There is a lot of old economy, new economy mixture coming here. So what's your view on the European and especially the Berlin AI scene from your partner perspective?
So talking about Germany, for OpenAI, Germany is in the top 5 users globally as a country. And actually in Europe, it's the number 1 user both on ChatGPT and the API. So the developers here, we know, are very active, are interested in getting their hands in the latest models and building really industry category defining solutions. So for us, we absolutely see the opportunity here because people want to be working here. Not only that, but in Germany in the last year, we've seen 5x growth of users. So it's, again, AI does not belong in a single city or a single country, but if we look at Europe, Germany is very much the driver of that. So thank you for being amazing users. And then I think between the ages of 18 to 24, it's almost 100% of them in Germany that are using ChatGPT. So it's great to see. In Europe more broadly, I'm very, very excited about what is being built here because first of all, people think, the market is like very fragmented, so people don't talk to each other. Actually, I always like to see what people see as risks as opportunities. I think what is great about it is that we see problems from our perspective that is a lot more complete. So I live in London. I'm personally from Greece, so I'm definitely European. And I love to advocate for what comes out of Europe because if everyone was in Silicon Valley and was building for Silicon Valley, then things would be very monolithic. Whereas here we see problems across the board. And by the way, Europeans are building problems for every part of the economy. There's a startup that came out of Germany that is building AI training tools for the unseen part of the economy, like blue collar workers, people who are using like heavy machinery, people who are using like working in factories, frontline nurses. Even on customer care and how you're experiencing commerce, if we look at regulated industries, we in Europe understand that markets can be different, that users want different things. And the fact that we're building out of here means that you can take the models, which are now giving flexibility for how to work. For example, GPT-5 is giving you full control on, do you want verbosity? So in my experience, some people who are in the Nordics or Germany want less verbosity, whereas people like me who are from Southern Europe want a lot of verbosity. So the fact that you have that control and you can design the model to work with you in your style and for your customers in multiple languages and adapt itself to EU data residency, which we're offering, zero data retention, which we're offering, working and meeting with the founders where they're at, meeting their customers where they're at, I think we're creating more value for economy and people than if we were only building things out of San Francisco.
Yeah, and then so I'm very at the moment between proud and really pleased to see when I'm spend half of my time in Silicon Valley, half of my time here, and when I look in, and I encourage everybody to the partners to look on what great things they build, and then what real cutting edge innovation our partners build here on top of the platform. I think there's nothing we have to hide behind here. And
Well, I'd say Parloa is a unicorn. In Europe, in the last 5 years, we've created more unicorns than the last 20 years combined. And this is, again, a testament to, especially when it comes to AI, I guarantee you, people like Malte and everyone who works at Parloa are far better than anyone in the US. So I'm definitely putting my stake right here.
Malte, it's a good segue. Parloa almost became like a dual headquartered company with so much growth in the US, with the office in New York and in Berlin here, with Chris being in the US now. So what's your view at the moment? Where do you see the most difference when you speak to clients over here, you speak to the clients over there? Do you see a big behavioral difference in how adoption is being done in the US, how adoption is being done here?
Yeah. So obviously the topic is more or less the same. Everyone wants to implement agentic AI. I think there is one difference when it comes to speed. I think there are decisions being done faster in the US, and then the implementations happens faster. So that's what we're seeing in sales cycles and implementation times, because the decisions are just faster. I think there is a second difference when we look at the US versus Europe, is that we have the first regulations in place. So compliance is a topic that enterprise in Europe cares more. So they actively ask, okay, how can I guide the agents towards complying to some regulations? So we need to think about an own regulation compliance layer on top of agents to guarantee that the agents are just doing what they should do, and they are not breaking rules that, for example, the EU AI Act gives those agents. So there are nuances where we need to adapt the product, but also the process with customers.
So when we talk about client success, and when you look at our biggest projects, so what would you think is the recipe for, we just heard from IKEA and for Booking how fast this is growing, but I have the feeling for many of our clients that the first step is the hardest.
Yeah.
So what would be like your top 3, top 5 guidances to say, hey, this is how you can make that happen?
So there are a couple of topics. The first is, it should be just another little innovation project. It needs to have executive buy-in. So there needs to be an executive in a company saying, yes, I believe we need to do that, and we want to drive value with that. The second one is, we need to define KPIs, and we can help customers doing that. But in the end, each enterprise needs to have the executive buy-in and the connected KPIs, and then together let's reach those KPIs. And the third thing, and we saw that today with IKEA and Booking, we need to have highly motivated teams within those enterprises that own that journey, that own that transformation, and make it happen. And if you have those 3 ingredients, you're set up for success, I would say.
Okay. Laura, from a partner perspective, I can't see any partner, whether it's a global SI, a Big Four, an ISV, a software company who has their own product, who doesn't want to go as fast as possible into that market. So when you talk to your partners, and they carry around a lot of legacy, there are products they have to maintain for 10 years with their old stack. So how do you see them really growing into that, and then not just talking about it, but really monetizing that and productize that? So what are the successful ones doing?
So first of all, I entirely agree with how Malte positioned it. I also, an advice that I give, especially to like founders, is that first of all, not every problem that you're solving is a new problem. A lot of problems that we're solving with AI is old problems that we can now solve with new ways, first of all. Second of all, is that when you're looking at solving a step in a value chain, it's not just about that step. You always have to take a step back and say, what is it that you're actually trying to affect as a result? So let's say you're talking about completing a sale. The question is, did you achieve the sale? Not, are you able to measure something better, or are you able to have a conversation better? So in order to be able to see what the impact of that step on the final outcome is, you have to understand the dependencies that come before and after. And then when designing the optimization of that process, seeing whether you can either abstract it to a level higher or make it such that that optimization here actually is impacting the final result. So designing the process, you have the freedom to look at those Lego pieces and not just switch one out, but actually put them all in a box, shake the box up, and design a much more efficient way to get from point A to point B to get the final outcome.
Great. So Malte briefly touched on compliance and regulations, which is obviously a thing across Europe, and you iterated that there is different cultures, there's different languages, there's different countries here who all have different views on that. OpenAI needs to build software which works in hundreds of countries, in all different industries, in consumer grade and enterprise grade. So how do you handle, especially in your area, the European part? So what's OpenAI's view and commitment on serving Europe?
So a couple of things. First of all, I think from the big labs, we were probably the first one to actually offer EU data residency directly on the models, so on the API. So as I said, zero data retention, which you can sign on, EU data residency for your data to stay here. And if you're in the healthcare space, we have BA and HIPAA compliance. So for us, that's extremely important to be able to offer to our customers so that they, again, can offer it to their customers, whether it's a final consumer user or enterprises. And then things like what we announced just yesterday with Sam Altman was that we now have OpenAI for Germany. So with SAP and Microsoft now, we have a cloud for public sector. So we're trying to do as much as possible, depending on where the needs are, to have that compliance locally.
Malte, when the Parloa journey started, and I think that's more than just being compliant to what you do in healthcare, being HIPAA compliant or being EU data act compliant. We had in the very first layout of the DNA of Parloa was always to say we want to be the most trusted partner to our clients, and then they need to 100% trust us on their data. And when I look at what Axel presented this morning, we are building an immense and infinitive brain of customer experience, customer data, where customers trust us with. And we recently had a joint conversation with an US client where I was first of all thinking, oh yeah, EU AI Act, that's not that important for them because they are more in the European side. And they was like, no, hold on. For us in the US, that is super important because we are global clients. So give us a little bit your view on our commitment on trust and compliance going forward in the industries, and especially on how global clients look at that, what's happening here in Europe.
Yeah. So the interesting part, when you build a company from Europe, you need to be global from the get-go, right? If you're from the US, you have a large US market first, and then you might go overseas later. When you're from Europe, you need to do it from the get-go. So you need to build the product, build the company for different languages, for different regulatory foundations, and that's what we did as well. And if we talk to the biggest global enterprises, they need to be able to deploy agents around the globe, right? So they need to be compliant around the globe. So we spend a lot of time in actually guaranteeing that agents are compliant in every single country, that there are the right guardrails in place so you can trust your agent, you can measure your agent, and you can make sure that your agent is following the rules you initially set. So we believe it's a very crucial topic for deploying agents for enterprises across the globe.
So we have a couple of seconds left. Laura, your two or three main innovation things which you see going forward to come over the next months What are we talking about in the next?
So the thing that I'm personally most excited about stuff that we launched recently is actually Codex. So we had Codex CLI, which was open source. Now we have Codex. It's a cloud-based software engineer, and we see a lot of value being unlocked because obviously it's what you bring to your customers, but very importantly, it's also how your developers within your companies are using AI internally. And we see huge unlock of innovation because agents can work on many tasks in parallel. Previously, it was how do you offload? And actually, often we talk about AI, at least internally, about time saving. So we say, previously if it took you an hour to write something with ChatGPT, maybe it takes you 5 minutes. Well, now it's not about the 5 minutes, but about not saving an hour, but it's saving 3 hours or 3 weeks or 3 months. And it's how quickly do we go to that? And a lot of that process of iteration and what saves time is not just what you're bringing out, but how you're doing the process internally. So for me, Codex is what I'm most excited about, especially because before you were offloading a task to, let's say, an intern, so it was a software engineer. Now you can also do parallel tasking, and it's working on the background like agents. So it really is saving time, and we're seeing a lot of teams that used to do 2-week sprints that are cut down to less than 3 days. So the ability to then ship faster for companies because those tools are available, I think are essential to continue to bring innovation in market.
Okay. Malte, you're two big next things. Last year we were sitting here, like you said in the beginning, we thought, wow, this is almost impossible what we see on the phone lines. When I see this, I don't want to say this is going to look old next year in 12 months, but what are beside scaling, beside more languages, beside generally growing up in the conversations, beside the general website will go away and I will probably say, hey IKEA, send me something. What's the two big leapfrogs you see in the future?
So obviously I talked a lot about multimodal experiences. This will be one thick breakthrough that homepages and apps will look completely different, first thing. Second thing, I believe that in the future you will have a hybrid workforce, right? You have humans working together with AI agents, and in the future your teams will onboard additional team members, and those team members will be AI agents. And they will all work together. So we have, Csaba mentioned it, multi-agents that are actually working together to create value for you. And they are not just working in the front end, so they are not just working to talk to customers. They will also work in the back office and execute tasks that right now are taking a lot of time for your human employees. So I believe we are at the start of a big transformation how organizations build their workforce, because it needs to be a hybrid one. And I'm very excited about what is there to come.
If I may add, I think this is what's amazing, that like for us, from GPT-3 to GPT-4 took us 18 months. And then in that time, you see more and more companies and people using AI. And the more people use it, the more we can actually advance because we understand where all this opportunity is. So 18 months to go from 3 to 4. And then if you realize that O1, which was the first reasoning model, was launched in September 24, so literally a year ago. And now we've had O1, O3, O4 mini, and GPT-5, which is the first model that combines reasoning and large language model. The rate of progress is crazy. It's so fast, and yet part of what makes it possible is having partners that are showing what all these use cases and needs are in market. So we're very thankful to be able to continue to advance because companies like Parloa are advancing in market.
I think that's the two big takeaways from me from today, and we had a great client session yesterday night, that we made the step from last year to this year that we have enterprise grade available solutions now. On the other hand, we must not forget we are in year 2 or 3, or for the older ones, I think we are on Nokia 2110 or whatever that was in year 3 or 4. So the adoption curve we're going to see, I think, is going to be unprecedented. And on the other side, this adoption curve is not going to be a linear one. It's going to be very much a hockey stick one.
And we're here working with Parloa and everyone else in Germany. We opened our office in Munich, so we love working with German founders and enterprises. So thank you for bringing the innovation to market.
Laura, thank you for coming. Malte, thank you.
Thanks, Jens.
Parloa.